necromancers. Good day to you, partner. I'm Guy, and I can already tell that I'll be your best friend in this forsaken kingdom.
Hey guys, Wheat Solo here, aka the Skeleton King. So, okay, this is not obviously a realistic build. I'm just putting that right out there. Why do I have a Beast and a Templar's on? They were gear on me, and faster run walk is good. So yeah. This Bone Spear damage, level 61 with no magic damage buffs. But basically, I just wanted to get damage that was pretty close to one-shotting a T1 with Bone Spear, which should be relatively possible with really good gear. And we're going to be doing Sewers of Haragoth. And the cool thing is that Ren Ren, bless his soul, actually made it so I could use what Bone Spear would be like in Season 10. So for those who may not know, Bone Spear is getting a much needed change, and I actually think maybe it's enough to make it a viable tool. So how do we talk about this? So Bone is stupid. I think it's really boring. I think it's actually the most boring necromancer in the game, and it's like a really boring slow multi-shot. The only difference is you're super safe. It's one of the safest necros in the game. The only thing safer than Bone, in my opinion, is playing Corpse Explosion like a loser and really slow. And in fact, Bone played like that can be almost just as good, but Corpse Explosion like consistently does puts enemies into hit recovery. And I would say if you really want to play slow and safe, probably Corpse Explosion is actually safer. And no, I don't think summoners are ever that safe. I think when you play them slow and safe, you randomly die. Now, if you play them slow and safe with really good gear that's also tanky, I don't know, you're just a special person, and I'm sure you can basically never die like that. So, going back to Bone and the video in front of us, this is the old Bone Spear, which has a fairly small hitbox, right? That's what we'd be calling it. The enemies have a hurt box. The Bone Spear has a hitbox. And basically, there's no reason to use Bone Spear except single target, and you have two other Bone Spears to choose from. Bone Spills. Bone Skills. Wow, I'm mumbling over my words so bad. Teeth and Bone Spear. And both of them kind of serve the same purpose, basically. They're both supposed to be, in general, AoE abilities. Now, the difference is Bone Spear is a little bit more damage, but way less AoE. But the problem is it's never really that worth it to use, because basically when you get magic damage up high, you're basically always going to be two-shotting everything. Yes, not always. But basically, so if you ever run into something a little bit tankier, 2 casts of Teeth should be more than enough. They also have a little bit of an AoE burst, which kind of helps as well. And so basically, the Teeth cast will clear much more than you expect it to, not even just based on the large radius of the Teeth going, basically covering not even a cone. It's basically the whole other side of the screen. So where your Necromancer is standing right now, right, I'm running and I have this skill that basically does the width of the hallway. If you're in an open area, it's basically going to be that entire side of the map. So it's like 33% of the screen has Teeth on it. And it does pretty good damage, has a little AoE, lots of Teeth, very good at clearing. Bone Spear does pierce, so it hits enemies behind, but basically how it all plays out at the end of the day, if you have good gear or you're doing content that is reasonable for your character, so you're not just having to overcast, then Teeth is better 95+% of the time. And even guys like the only real Bone Necro fanatic was Xenon? I think I got it right. I wanted to call him Xerox at first, but I think his name is Xenon. And I even got Xenon to agree that basically you cast Teeth all the time. And, I would say you cast it 99% of the time, and he's like 95%. I think that was our conversation. I'm like, all right, fine. Maybe if you really took it seriously, you'd only cast Teeth 95% of the time. And 5% of the time, Bone Spear would actually be the optimal decision. That's really dumb. Now, you could argue Bone Spirit's even in a worse position, but I guess it's a single target ability. So, there used to be some declone builds that ran it back before people knew how to kill declone with the Necromancer. And if you run into a map boss and everything's dead, you could, use some Bone Spirits. and I think it has some marginal PvP uses as well. So there you go. That was the old Bone Spear. Very similar maps. Now we're going to do the new Bone Spear. And you kind of saw how clear it was. And by the way, I think this is the optimal way to run a map. You don't just chase down everything. You try to cast as little as possible to kill as much as possible, because that actually saves time. And I actually felt really, really, really good playing this version of the build, because I actually felt like if I could cast it right in front of me, now as you can see I have my mouse clicker usually right in front of my Necromancer, and you don't want it right on top usually because that's a little too wide for these hallways, but if you could have it just a couple of pixels in front of you, you basically get a Bone Spear. It kind of felt like to me I was actually playing a viable running man Necromancer, because basically I could like follow the Bone Spears because they actually travel a long, long distance, right? And so as I cast it and run forward, shit just keeps dying. So I think what this buff is going to do is it's actually going to make Bone Spear more viable than people realize, because since you get this like not a shotgun effect, because Teeth kind of has a shotgun effect, and yes, Bone Spear has next hit delay, so you can't double stack them. Okay, it's not like the healing ability by Paladins. But it has like a piercing effect. And so if I keep running, then I'm going to keep spawning new mobs that are going to keep dying. And to me, this was actually kind of fun. So as I've always said, I think Dentist was the stupidest Necro in the game. And now Bone Spear, would I play it? Almost. I think there's other Necros I'd still rather play. I'd play Fire Golems first because I love Fire Golems if they get fixed. Poison Nova is just Poison Nova. DP is probably the most fun Necro you can play, honestly. But this Running Man style Bone Spear I actually think is a legitimate thing to have on your radar. Now you should combine Blood Warp with it. But is there a world where I could see you running a Source of Vigor, even an Act 1 Merc with Harmony? Obviously the Fizz 1, because the Fizz 1 is broken. You could go just Act 3 Merc, Static Shock, and use Vigor on that. And I've always said that one of the things I don't like about Act 3 Merc with Running Man builds is because he can get himself killed. But I think on this version where you actually have to stop and cast, I think if you've got Collins on your offhand, and you've got an Act 3 Static Shock Merc, I think it might work out. And with that extra little chunk of Static Shock damage, I think you'll legitimately one-shot everything in a T1, like most champs and elites as well. And then maybe you could even go up into T3s and still clear them efficiently and fast. And basically, unless they nerf Poison Nova and Dark Pact, this is going to be the worst spellcasting Necro in the game. But it's going to be viable now. And as you can see, everything's more clear. And I did less cast. Skelly King out, guys. GG.
Come and play with us, Daddy.